Now the longest-running newspaper in the city, the Omaha Star has been a beacon of hope and pride for the urban community in North Omaha, Nebraska for over 70 years. Founded by Dr. Mildred D. Brown in 1938, the Omaha Star is said to be the first black newspaper run by a woman. Mildred Brown was born to parents Reverend and Mrs. Benny J. Brown in Alabama in 1915. Her mother was a teacher and encouraged her to get an education. At 16, Brown graduated from Miles Memorial Teachers College in Birmingham, Alabama. In 1936, Brown married S. Edward Gilbert, a graduate of Howard University. Brown and her husband began their career in newspapers at the Sioux City Silent Messenger. He was an editor, and she sold ads. They moved to Omaha, Nebraska, after being offered jobs at the Omaha Guide, her as a circulations manager and he as an editor. A year later, Brown and her husband opened the Omaha Star. On July 9, 1938, the Omaha Star published 6,000 copies and sold for 10 cents each. Bearing Brown's promise of community journalism, the black perspective on news, including a chronicle of everyday accomplishments by community members, and her personal specialty, local and national advertisements. Brown told the Lincoln Journal that Reverend D.H. Harris, a pastor in Sioux City, encouraged her to start a paper for black Americans, to bring them joy, happiness, and respect, and to give them a voice in the community.
That was the main reason why she started this paper, is so that the people in Omaha who live on the north side, people of color, so that they could have a voice. Because up until she started the paper, they didn't.
Brown was a very strong advocate of education and encouraging students to be their best. Graduations and student awards were regular features in the paper. The community was also encouraged to become involved in clubs and issues like voting and discrimination of teachers and schools.
She was a member of the Poets Club. And the Poets Club was a group that started at Creighton University. It was all white. And they wanted to include neighborhood people, people on the north side, which meant African Americans. And so they did. Well, Creighton University decided at that time that it really wasn't a school club or group. So they had to find a place to meet. And Mildred let them meet here. And one of the things that they did was to work toward school integration. There was picketing around the Board of Education. There were many talks, but it didn't work. At that time, there was a superintendent of schools who believed that, in fact, he made a statement that African Americans did not have the cultural background to teach on the secondary level. Although they might have been certified, he didn't feel that we had the cultural background, whatever that meant. Working on school integration, that was one thing. They were working on integration of the entire city because at that particular time, restaurants were segregated. Everything was segregated, just about. There were a few places that African Americans were welcome, but for the most part they were not. African Americans could not get good jobs at that time. They had tried at the Pepsi Cola company to become drivers, to to be able to get some of the jobs that were offered there to everybody except them. And so that was one of the fights that they had. There were a number of white businesses on the north side, and many of them would not hire blacks. So that was another fight. Bus drivers, they would not hire black bus drivers, not even on the north side. So that was a great big fight.
The influence of Mildred Brown and the Omaha Star during the Omaha riots in the 1960s was recognized by President Lyndon Johnson. Brown was appointed Goodwill Ambassador and traveled to East Germany. During Brown's years at the Omaha Star, she mentored young people in the community. Kathy Hughes, now founder and president of Radio One and TV One networks, credits Brown for giving her her first job. After 50 years in the business, the longest operating black-owned newspaper run by a woman in the country, Brown was proud to say, the Omaha Star broke down discrimination. Dr. Mildred Brown died in 1989, but her legacy lives on. Her niece, Dr. Margarita Washington, and the community makes sure of it.
There are a group of people in Omaha that really support the Omaha Star. As a matter of fact, if the Omaha Star is not in their mailbox, they're on the phone. Where is it? Well, when I was an undergraduate student, I lived with her. On Friday nights, I don't give a darn how late I stayed out. I could come in at 3, 4 o'clock, or 5, or whatever. She still made me get up and take care of, at that time we had newsboys and girls. At 8 o'clock, I had to be out in the front office to greet those young people, regardless. If I only had 2 or 3 hours of sleep, tough. Well, now I consider that a really good thing because it taught me that you have responsibilities and you should take care of them. And when I was with her, I had to take care of my responsibilities. She talked work to me quite often, and what you should do and what you shouldn't do, and you know, that type of thing. So I think I have a pretty strong work ethic. And I learned it from her.
Dr. Washington has kept the Omaha Star running for 20 years, focusing on the motto her aunt began with, though things have changed since Brown opened the paper 71 years ago.
Technology has changed newspapers. People tend to want to look at the internet now, or the website. They don't want to sit down and read a paper from cover to cover. And those that do read the paper, a lot of times, they look for certain things, and then they miss the other half, the other things. So they don't thoroughly read the newspaper the way they used to. So that's what I think has changed things from the time that my aunt started this paper in 1938 to now, technology. Now, what I think is going to happen in the future, there will be advanced technology that will even change things further, which means that if changes are taking place, then you have to keep up with the changes in order to keep up with your readers.
In 2007, the Omaha Star office at 2216 North 24th Street was labeled an historical landmark. The Omaha Star celebrated 70 years of service to the North Omaha community with a huge gala on June 27, 2008, honoring Mildred Brown and the Omaha Star. Special guest speaker, CNN correspondent Roland Martin, spoke about her legacy in journalism. And today, the Omaha Star is still dedicated to the service of people. And no good cause shall lack a champion, and that evil shall not thrive unopposed.